Alright, let's see if I remember how to do this. I have filmed 2 videos since the last one I posted that I have straight up not posted. So if you are actually viewing this on YouTube right now, it is a miracle that I got it done. Just know that. The 2 videos that I have not posted are embarrassingly a readathon I did for myself for my birthday back in February, which ended up being a just massively stressful time. February through March was a lot. And I filmed a video the very first week out of school, like the first week that I had like off for the summer. And they're both good, and they both will probably get posted at some point, like with some hilarious tagline about how late they are, but I want to do the mid-year freakout because I do it every year, and it really kind of helps me think about things. I am nervous already about the very first one on this list because I'm not committed to the answer. I've read some really good books this year. I've read a lot of like, ooh, that was good, I need to talk about it. It's sitting with me. But I don't know if it's a favorite. I haven't had a book speak to me in a way that's like, yes, you will think about me forever. This will be the one. And I worry about that I'm not going to have that this year. I'm not going to get that. And, I mean, there's plenty of time. We're halfway through the year. I've already read like 55 books, I think, as of recording this. And I'm working on some books now, like, through different mediums that are pretty good. So, I mean, it's possible. I'm nervous. Maybe my tastes have kind of averaged out, or maybe I'm too picky. I don't know. But I do have my little cheat sheet here. And I have as many physical copies of books as I can. Some of these were library books. Some of them were audio. And so, or some of them were NetGalley stuff. So I'm doing the best I can. So stick with me. I'm going to go through all of these. It's the same questions they are every year. I will link the original video and original creators below, and as well as putting the questions in the description if you have, for some reason, haven't seen the myriad of, or plethora. Is it myriad or plethora? You know, I'm an English teacher, but I get those confused. I think plethora is to have a lot of, and a myriad is more of a, like, an optional thing, like not a physical thing. But feel free to tell me if you want to get, like, really specific on grammar. Also, this is a new phone. Do you know where the camera is for this one? It's down in the corner. And I have to remind myself that it's down in the corner and not up at the top like my old one was. So if you see my eyes just glancing off, just know that I'm struggling just straight up now. So anyway, let's get into this. Let's try to make this a short and sweet video. The very first question or prompt is best book you've read so far. This is what I said when I'm like, I don't know what my favorite's going to be, but I did really like this. And this also happens to be the very first book that I read this year. And it's The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. And it's just a cute little middle grade fantasy, and it's everything I wanted in a little middle grade fantasy. It's got high stakes, but it's got humor, it's got heart. It gave Once Upon a Marigold. And if you have not read the Once Upon a Marigold series, shame on you. Please go do that now. It's Once Upon a Marigold, Twice Upon a Marigold, and that's right, Thrice Upon a Marigold. And all of them are fantastic. They're very good, like, approachable middle grade novels that have very simple plots, but enough characterization and heart to it that, I mean, you can read them at any age and really enjoy them. But this one is about a little girl who drinks some of the moon, like the light of the moon, when she is a baby, and it grants her like super serious powers, and she's raised in the woods by a witch, and she's tracked by a witch hunter, but there's a lot more to that, obviously, and it's just very good. I did tear up a couple times reading it, but I don't know if this is like ultimate favorite. The more I explain it, the more I'm like, yeah, you probably actually will put this as your favorite this year, but anyway, this was a really good one. It's the best one I've read so far, and there is another one later on this list that probably could fit in this category, but we'll get to her when we get to her. So the next prompt is best sequel. I have technically not read any sequels. Okay, so that's a lie. I've read sequels, but they're part of the Ice Home series with the Ice Planet Barbarians, and I'm not counting those because they're like book like 10 and 11 in the series, and there's not really a best sequel at that point. They're just continuations in the series. Like, they're good. It's alien sex books. So they're going to give you what you thought you were going to get. So it's not like they're the best things I've ever read. And in fact, one of them wasn't really that good. I wouldn't say I liked them too much. In fact, the last two, wouldn't say I liked them too much. So I'm nervous about continuing the series. I don't think Ice Home has been as good for me as Ice Planet was. But I'm a completionist, so I'm going to finish it this year. I just come hell or high water. I'm at least going to get the Samantha book because it needs to be awkward. Oh, that reminds me of something. I'm going to come back and do the third one. You're not even going to know this happened, but I'll know this happened. The next one is new release to get to, and there are quite a few new releases that I want to get to. There's new releases that I have gotten in owl crates that I need to get to, but the main one, the biggest on the list right now, besides the Wilderwood series, oh my god, I'm so sorry that I have not read those yet. They're there. I have both of them. I have For the Wolf and For the Throne, and maybe I'll get to them this summer, but it's been a weird year. I have to read of my new releases Juniper and Thorn. Mainly because The Wolf and the Woodsman was so good, and I know that this will be very different. I think it is more of a gothic fantasy historical romance kind of thing. I have heard that there are a lot of triggers that people are not enjoying, but I'm going in with my eyes completely open to what is supposed to be done with that material, and I know from the author that she has taken the care to paint this from her perspective of being a CSA survivor, so that I know that the material is going to be handled fairly and not sort of an exploitative way, which I get with. I mean, and if there's stuff I need to flip forward through, I flip forward through it. But I'm nervous about that because it is so different from The Wolf and the Woodsman, but I am very intrigued by the premise. And I mean, look at that cover, like, so pretty. So that is the newest release that I need to get to. I just got that this week. All right, I have a lot of the next one. You ready? Okay, so I have a list. The next is your most anticipated for the remainder of the year, the rest of the year. I did the Barnes & Noble pre-order thing in January, so I've gotten like one book a month pretty much every month this year. Slowly just been working away at it. But these are the ones that I know are coming out between now and the end of the year that I have got to get my hands on, I have got to read. And they are as follows. 9 Liars, which is the next book in the Truly Devious series. I cannot wait. I did not expect. And it's a beautiful cover. I'm so excited. Painted Devils, which is the sequel to Little Thieves, which will show up later on this list. And Bloodmarked, which is the sequel to Legendborn. And I can't wait for those books. Every single one of those is going to be the thing that I don't shut up about. So just get ready. I know they're going to end me, and I know whenever they come in, everything on my TBR is going to have to go away. I could have easily added Don't Fear the Reaper, which is the second book in the Lake Witch trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. You know, My Heart is a Chainsaw, the sequel to that. But they moved it to February of next year, which, like, happy birthday to me, but also, like, I have to wait. But those are the 3 that I am the most excited to get my hands on. They all are gorgeous books. They are continuations of really unique stories and characters I love, so I'm very excited to get to those. Number 5 is biggest disappointment. I wasn't like super disappointed in a lot of books. Anything that I went in with low expectations for, I was kind of met with those. I haven't read anything really truly awful yet either this year, which thank God. I fully credit being more selective in my NetGalley things, because that was where I got, you know, in trouble. Now, I will tell you, I DNF'd my first book pretty much in the last 5 years. A couple weeks ago, I tried to reread a book that I read in middle school and remembered liking, but there was an age gap that made me so uncomfy. Like, when I tell you the main character was 15, a sheltered, like, priestess, and the man she found injured was, like, 30. No, ma'am. I don't care. I don't care if it's a fantasy. That is a fucking child. That is gross. Ew. So no, I snapped that book shut. I was like, I don't remember that, but maybe when I was 15, that seemed okay. Spoiler alert, 15-year-olds, it's not. it's not. Like, I'm all for playing with, like, taboo subjects in fiction as needed, but, like, that's not needed. There was no reason for that character to not be, like, 18 or 19. Just boost it on up there. A little more adult. I don't understand. Anyway, I'm going on a rant. I didn't even show you that book. That's not even the book I'm talking about. I'm actually going to talk about Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. I'm going to pick up more of her books. I think I could like a romance by her. But the reason I didn't like this one, and I've got reviews for all these, by the way, on my Goodreads and Storygraph, which will be linked below if you want to read further thoughts. I hate miscommunication as a trope in general. It is one of my least favorite things. Just talk to people. If now there's a real reason there's miscommunication, maybe the timing was wrong and you couldn't actually get up with a person quick enough, sure. But like if you actively are avoiding having a conversation with somebody, or you shut up because your feelings are hurt, I can't. Especially when you are in your late 30s and 40s like they are in this book. Now, homeboy here, he is an actor and he has been kind of hiding his personality for the entirety of his adult life. He doesn't want people to know he is smart because pretty boy can't be smart, which I already have a problem with. I think that's very stupid. I mean, it's a protection measure, but like it just seems like an excuse. And so him not knowing how to deal with relationships makes sense. He hasn't had a lot of them, but she has, and she accuses him and gets mad at things that he doesn't know that he even did. And that is not the making of a good and solid relationship here. I mean, those two people don't know how to communicate. And I think by the end, maybe they realized that. But, like, she doesn't even deal with some of her parents' stuff in a healthy way. This is a character who has a therapist. And it's like, then why are you still behaving like you're in your 20s? Like, I don't know. It's like, leave this behind you. Develop. Be an adult. And maybe other people don't see that as a problem. I did. I'm old enough now and been in a relationship long enough that I know that kind of petty thing where you get mad because somebody said something and you don't tell them you are mad will not actually fix the problem, turns out. It will just make the problem last till later when you actually talk about it. So anyway, this is a disappointment. It wasn't as good as everyone kind of hyped it to be. And furthermore, it wasn't really that like sexy. I mean, there were a couple sex scenes that were okay, but it's like it just kind of took a back burner to the things I didn't like, which was the miscommunication. So anyway, moving on. I had a really hard time picking something for 6, which was biggest surprise. I ended up going with Razorblade Tears. I did not know how I was going to like this sort of revenge thriller story thing, and it ended up being really good. I did cry at the end. I do believe there are some well-founded critiques about this book. But I am not part of the community who is raising those critiques, so I don't feel qualified to talk on them, but I can see how that would be understood from this book. Me, however, I went in with a pretty low expectations to the point where I didn't even buy this book physically when Literally Dead Book Club read it. I listened on an audiobook, and at one point in the audiobook something happened, and I turned around in my car and went and picked it up physically and bought it. That is right. It was good enough that I was shocked into going to buy it. And I still like the things that it did. I am surrounded by enough men, like the 2 men in this book, that I like the idea of them being able to redeem themselves. I've seen it happen, and I just really like that this was sort of a celebration of this, like, righteous, angry fatherhood. I do, unfortunately, believe that sometimes you just have to hit people, and I'm glad that both of these men did. It was great. Was it brutal? Yes. Did it make me cry? Yes. And did it surprise me? Yes. Fave new author is hard because it's not that I haven't read a lot of new authors. I have, but I haven't read a lot that I'm going to actively seek out their work, like I've got them on a list or anything, except for, again, I've got some mentioned later that I'll talk about. But there was at least one where I read 2 of her books this year, and I think I'm just going to have to keep tabs on her. I liked both of these books for different reasons. I do not have a physical copy of the first book I read by her, which was my favorite. I liked it better than this one, but this is the physical one I have, and it is The Forest of Stolen Girls by June Hur. June Hur wrote also The Red Palace that came out this year. I read it on NetGalley, and I loved it. They are historical fiction novels, both of them, that are like historical fiction mysteries, and they are so good. They're like just delicately written and paced. They're very beautiful, and the characterization is sort of this deep and nuanced characterization of the main characters in both, which happen to be very like strong female characters who are really good at deducing things, and I like that. I would like to see more of it. So I will be seeking out more of June Hur's writing. And like I said, there's some other authors later on this list that you can assume I'll probably look up more of their stuff. And there are books that I have read this year that have sequels. I will obviously be reading the sequels. But that is one author I know of that I liked both of her books and the way they were written, so I'm definitely going to look up more of her stuff. Alright, so for 8 and 9, that is new crush and new fave character. They both come from the same book, and that is also something that can be included in the previous one about like authors that you are now like new faves, and that is Margaret Owen's Little Thieves. I have a massive crush on Emmerich Conrad. I think he is super great. I love him so much, and his goofy little self. And my favorite new character, like in general, is Vanya Schmidt. She's fantastic. You love an unlikable protagonist that has reasons for being unlikable, and it's by her nature. And I love both of them so much. I cannot wait to read more about them in Painted Devils. It promises a whole new world of drama for them. But this book, it's big, flies by. Audiobook is fantastic too. I'd highly recommend it. This is a really good book. This is a really good book. I'm saying this and I'm hoping you believe me because my God, Little Thieves is very good. This might be in a contender for best of the year now that I'm thinking about it. We'll see. We'll see. It's definitely got the crush and the fave character though, for sure. Number 10 is Book That Made You Cry. I can only hold up one of the books, and that is Razor Blade Tears. It did make me cry. The ending is sad. And then the other one I do not have a physical copy of. It is Robin Benway's A Year to the Day, which is a story of a girl dealing with the year after her sister has died in an automobile accident, and it takes place backwards. So you start at the day, the year to the day, 365 days later, and then you go backwards all the way to the day of the accident. So I cried at small things. It wasn't even where you'd think you'd cry at, but like the Thanksgiving scene, she has a moment where she talks with her stepmom about having enough love for like other family members, and it's just very devastating to read. Robin Benway is really good at doing those kind of like small lifelike conversations in books, and I really love that, but it did make me cry a little bit. Like, not sob, but I was very sad. So, but that one definitely made me cry. 11 is A Book That Made You Happy. I also don't have a physical copy of this because I checked it out from the library to do a buddy read with Gina, and it is 9 Perfect Strangers by Leanne Moriarty. Is it Leanne? Yeah. Yeah, Leanne Moriarty. And it's really good. That one also made me cry, in sad ways, but also happy ways. And I don't know. I like the interactions of the different characters. I think it was just funny enough to make up for the fact that there was crazy stuff happening at the end of every chapter. Like, every time we got to the end of the day's reading, we were like, okay, where's it gonna go now? And I just really liked that. But I think by the ending, people had gotten to where they needed to be as characters, and it was just really nice to see. It just kind of felt like a warm hug. So that one was definitely one that made me happy. Number 12 is Most Beautiful. I read a lot of pretty books this year. I just want to point that out. But these were 2 I could get my hands on, so just trust me here. The first one is Kirsten White's Hide. I know, you're thinking, that is not pretty, that is grotesque. I know. It looks like scary stories to tell in the dark in all the best ways. Like, and there's so many little things that you don't notice till afterward. And also, I know it's not a cover, but like, come on, the inside's so cool. But I really like this one. And then completely different, I also really like We Ride Upon Sticks by Quan Berry. Now, Quan Berry is another author I'm probably going to look into reading more of. I will be disappointed probably because the reason I really like this one so much is the weird writing style. And I've been looking for books that give me Stranger Things vibes. Because full disclosure, I am almost finished with season 4 at this point, and we're a couple days away from part 2 dropping of Stranger Things. This gives Stranger Things. If you're looking for something to fill that kind of void with books while you watch the show, this does that. It is so delightfully 80s, and it's late 80s, so it's stuff that I can still relate to, even though I was a 90s baby. But the cover is gorgeous. I just love the super neon technicolor of it. I want to get my hands on the paperback because it's also very pretty. It's just a different color scheme. But this is one of the prettiest books like I own in general. I mean, like, look at this. Look, just all over. It's just gorgeous. And it stands out on my shelves because I don't have a lot of books this color. So definitely Most Beautiful to me. All right, the very last one is books you need to read by the end of the year. And I have a couple of books here. One of them is going to be a big old spoiler for a video I'm hoping to do later in the year. But again, we'll see what happens because who knows if this is even going to get posted. I hope so, if I wasted this much time on it. You know what I'm saying? If I've sat here for this long. Anyway, The first book I want to get to is hilarious. It is called Palomino by Danielle Steele. And I know what you're thinking, you don't read a lot of romance on this channel. And you're right, I don't. However, Palomino has a storied history in my house because when I was a young child, they sold this book at a library sale for 25 cents and I bought it strictly because the main character's name is my exact name. So I have to read it. I was a horse girl and she was named after me. So it's got a horse on it. I got to read it. So I got to know what the hype is about. I'm sure I'm not going to like it, but it'll be fun to read it anyway. So we'll see. The next thing I definitely need to read is Parable of the Sower. It's timely, and I have never read it before. I don't think I will ever be in a position to teach it, which makes me sad, but I would like to have the knowledge of having read it. I love The Handmaid's Tale. It is one of my favorite books. My annotated copy is marked all the way up. I will never watch the TV show. I've pretty much decided that. I just am not interested in any additional stuff. I like the gaps not being filled in the book because I think that's part of the purpose of it because of the media in which it was related to. Anyway, if you read it, you know what I'm talking about. The Parable of the Sower is supposed to be also a really decent speculative fiction about sort of a future dystopia, women losing control of things, environmental issues. Again, I know very little about it besides it's fantastic. I am hoping to read this summer so that I can say that I have and I can get started on, I think, the rest of the trilogy because I think it is a trilogy, right? I'm going to feel really stupid if it's not. Gonna feel really dumb. Oh, look at that. It is a duology. So not all as stupid as I thought it was. But that is very high on my list, is reading Parable of the Sower. The last 3 books that I need to read by the end of the year is sort of this my own curse to myself. We have Pride and Prometheus, The Other Bennett Sister, and Mary B. And if you're wondering what all those have in common, that's right. All 3 of these books are about Mary Bennett. We apparently love her. We just do. And I do. I love Mary Bennett. I think she gets a bad rap in the books. I don't know who Jane Austen knew that she wrote into this book as Mary Bennett, the annoying scholarly sister. But I really have an affection for her. Her kind of like awkward social cues and the fact that she would rather be reading and she's just trying to appease people. She is very much giving young middle child energy. And I really hate that for her. So I want to hope that one of these will give her a better situation, you know. My hope is on this one because this is also Frankenstein, and it's about Frankenstein's monster and Mary Bennett, which is what you didn't want and didn't know you wanted, but also now you kind of need it. So I'm looking forward to this. But all the other ones, I'm going to try to read them all together and see which I think gives Mary Bennett the best shot at success and happiness. I think there's also a YA novel that's about Mary Bennett that I'm going to look into seeing if I can get my hands on. But that is kind of the immediate stuff that I have accessible. There's a lot of stuff that's on my TBR. Pretty much that entire shelf is immediate TBR. So, embarrassing, but true. Anyway, if you have not already done the mid-year freakout tag and you would like to, again, the questions are in the description and the original folks are linked. And let me know what you think I should read by the end of the year, or if you have any opinions on the things I've already said. Also, feel free to tell me which I should be using, Myriad or Plethora. And that's it. Bye. Hey, did you stay till the end? Cool. You get a bonus book haul because I went to the Goodwill today. Aren't you lucky? I got Run to Me by Paul Yoon. I don't know anything about it. It's historical fiction. I got the Yanalahasi writing camp for girls. This is also historical fiction, and it takes place in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. I've got Sudden New Fiction, which is a bunch of short stories that are apparently less than 2,000 words and contain like a shocking thing. And so I'm thinking if nothing else, it'll be enjoyable, but also maybe I can use it for teaching. I like short stories that freak them out. We have Modern Lovers by Emma Straub. I just recognize the author. And it's another one of the... Oh, cool. That's right. Cool. Now I have 2 books that are that aqua color. Anyway. I have The Impossible Fortress, which, just reading it, it's like a bunch of kids in the 1980s that is giving me Stranger Things. I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm really looking for them. Achieving that high is what I'm looking for. And the last one is the most embarrassing one, so I saved it for last, and I will not be explaining, but I found Warriors, the ultimate guide to the Warrior Cat series. Okay, bye.